This news caught me by surprise.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very shocked because, I mean, one would presume that concussion-related symptoms usually rear their head in the game. Well, we would like to think so.
Yeah.
Usually rear their head in the game. We pull them out. It is what it is. But clearly, Brock just powered through it. There is speculation as to when the concussion happened. There's speculation as to what the result of the concussion was with respect to his statistics.
Yeah.
But let's focus on what we know for a fact, which is that if Brock has to sit this one out, do we feel as though we have enough in Darnold to carry us through a game against the Bengals?
That's a great question. I want to find out. I don't want to find out, but we're gonna find out. I think you'd be so much more comfortable with Brock Purdy starting this game. Sam Darnold, I'm gonna say sure. I feel comfortable with him at quarterback just
Mm-hmm.
because Kyle Shanahan feels comfortable with him. I mean, obviously, Niners went out and signed him, and I think he was one of their like first or second signings this offseason. So he was obviously a big priority for the Niners for whatever which reason. Probably because the idea of Trey Lance being on this roster was in its infant stages at that point. Um, but I think my reaction was the exact same you had not 5 minutes ago when you read that headline. It's like, what the fuck? Where did that come from?
Totally.
Because he didn't show any symptoms. I like to believe that the NFL spotters to spot those concussions would be able to see something, and if they didn't see something, then there'd be no reason to believe he had a concussion. That headline. I mean, if he actually early plug of the podcast. If you go to the last 3 minutes of the Sprint Right Option podcast today, the news comes across like as we're wrapping our show.
Oh, wow.
So you get a very like natural, like we're already out of here, but like this news broke. Here's the quick reaction. And it was just like, we didn't even really know how to process it at the point because I don't think it ever occurred to my brain that Purdy was hurt in any way. So that this definitely throws a very interesting wrench into the season, and it could not have come at the worst possible time because I don't know if you've noticed, Mr. Sam, the 49ers are on a 2-game losing streak, and it feels like the roof is falling a little bit, but it's still only week 7, so it's not really falling in yet. It just feels like it is.
Yeah, I mean, we're particularly like saucy fan base. You know what I mean? Like
Say the
when
least.
things feel like they're going wrong, like we really like to add a little extra seasoning to that, like to make
Yeah.
things more dramatic because we either have the memory of being the shit or we have the aspirations of being the shit.
Yep.
And we are always so close to achieving those things in recent time. And I think that's why there's a frustration level. With respect to this concussion, I have had a concussion before. I was snowboarding once. Let me tell you something. It would be really fucking hard to play quarterback.
Yes.
It would be really, really hard to play quarterback.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was seeing double. I was puking. Shit was not great. As much as there's kind of two factions of post-concussion Purdy ideology here, which is one, it shouldn't be that, how do we know how it affected him? And then there's the other ideology, which is like, no, it probably, this is probably the break in the statistics between when shit was going good and when shit was going bad. I preface by saying I'm speculating. There is no way for me to get into his head. There is no way for me to, seep my way into the experience that the players had onto the field. I was pretty high up. But with that being said, I did notice that there was kind of a day and night Purdy situation. And it went from a Purdy who was confidently executing the offense in the way that I have seen him do quite frequently in the past lately.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the Purdy who looked like he was in fight or flight mode to accomplish his objective as a quarterback in a Kyle Shanahan offense. Again, I cannot give you any substantive evidence that this is what eventually led to sort of the down spiral of his performance. But I will say that when I was watching him perform his quarterback duties in the beginning of the game, I felt like it was the same confident, efficient quarterback I had been watching all these weeks prior, obviously budgeting in rookie mistakes.
Yeah.
How did you feel, and sort of where do you sort of line up this sort of tinfoil hat concussion statistic, alignment?
I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I think if you're looking for an excuse for your quarterback to throw 2 interceptions on 2 drives, like that's
A concussion's a great one.
it's a mighty convenient one to come up on a Wednesday afternoon. But at the same time, we've seen these inconsistencies from Brock Purdy. I mean, you go through each game of the season and each one's kind of your own choose your Brock Purdy adventure type thing. He had his issues against the Rams, but he was also really good against Dallas, but he had his issues against Cleveland, but he was really good against Arizona and New York and things like that. And we've seen inaccurate passes haunt him. That's been my biggest complaint. I mean, the Rams game, I remember off the top of my head,
Yep.
3 passes that could have been touchdowns that were missed. So he's an NFL quarterback. He's going to miss passes. Tom Brady missed passes. Patrick Mahomes misses passes. It's something that Purdy's done at kind of a consistent rate. So what's to say that, yeah, man, he looked really good in the first 3 quarters of the game. What's to say that the inaccuracies just didn't pop its head in the fourth quarter, especially in a situation where the Niners obviously have to throw the ball? Like, it's not like the Vikings were sending pressures in situations where you shouldn't, like a 3rd and 6 when the offense is at their own 40 at 17 seconds in the first half. Hey, that's a specific thing to call up, Andrew. Don't know why. But Minnesota's sitting on the pass, so obviously they're going to have more members in the secondary to intercept passes. And I think the first one, you can maybe talk about Jawan Jennings running the wrong route, whatever that conversation is. The second one was just a bad throw forced into double coverage. So if you're looking for the excuse for Purdy of why he just suddenly collapsed, concussion's laid out. There it is. I don't want to speculate on that because I have also had a concussion. And the thing with concussions is brains are weird. And it's for me, I very much had the Purdy thing. Because I don't know if it's the Purdy thing, reportedly the Purdy thing, where he didn't really feel symptoms until the plane ride. I had the same sort of thing once with a concussion, hit the back of my head trying to kick a football, because that's very hard to do. Jake Moody's
That's very Charlie Brown of you. Like
very Charlie Brown. Yes, I overextended the kick and just boom. Kind of shook it off, but then the next day the headaches came, and so that is where, like, I'm not going to judge how Brock Purdy felt.
Sure.
The evidence is there. The evidence is there that he has control issues, but the evidence is also there that he doesn't turn the ball over much. He only threw 1 interception entering the game, and then he threw 2 in 2 drives.
Correct.
So in terms of it, I don't know. I don't know if the concussion affected him. Very long answer to get to that point.
Yeah, I mean, there is no way to quantify this data, right? I mean, There's no way to Freaky Friday into his skull and experience that over again. The game is done.